The other thing that I had to do was learn how, I avoid my feelings. So my son was avoiding his feelings by drinking alcohol, right? And I could point a finger at him and say, he's an alcoholic, poor Will. He avoids his feelings by drinking. But when you point a finger at somebody and try to help them, you have three fingers pointing back at you. And what I wasn't doing is working on myself. I was staying busy. I wasn't feeling my feelings. So when I divorced from Bruce, I had a busy job. I had to work. I had to get stuff done. I had to accomplish. I had to keep moving forward. I had to get my kids counseling. I had to put my kids first. Welcome to the Onward Podcast. This is your host, Emily Harman. This is a solo podcast, and basically I went live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and in my Onward Movement Facebook group the other day to talk about creating a life you love living. I had no idea I was going to go live, and I just did, and I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth, but I talked for 30 minutes, and I wanted to share it as an Onward podcast episode. I've not really done a lot of solo casts in the past, and I'm starting to find my voice, and I want to share this one with you. So this was recorded just a few days before the 4th of July. I think it was the Thursday before the 4th of July, 2021. And I start to share about what I've been through in the past 2 years. And I know I'm not alone, and that's why I share. Okay, I'm live. Okay, I'm going way out of my comfort zone. My name is Emily Harman. I want to talk about creating a life that you love living. You've probably never seen me here live on LinkedIn, YouTube. I know in my Onward Movement group, people have seen me live, but never really just gone live by myself. I'm always interviewing somebody else. I'm always putting somebody else in the spotlight and talking to them and not sharing a lot about myself. So I just gave a presentation today for another coach that I know, and for his group, he was doing a coaching program, and I gave him a presentation, and I thought, I want to give that same presentation here. And I didn't schedule this. So this is like an impromptu thing, way out of my comfort zone. For Nancy Barrows, I'm radiating real and just being myself. And this is what I wanted to talk about. So I'm just going to do it. And I'm detached from the outcome. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, only one person is watching. I must be a loser. Hey, if you're watching, let me know that you're watching so I know who you are. Ask me any questions. But I want to talk about creating a life that you love living. And so I'm going to see if I can pull up. I'm going to share my screen and pull up a slide. And that's the slide that I want to pull up. The presentation that I gave earlier today was on, or just a little while ago, was on hard goals, just about goals. So my goals when I retired, just a little bit about me. I retired from working for the Navy in May of 2019. And let me put this down for a minute and say that. I retired from working. Thank you, Anisha. Hi, Randall. I retired from working for the Navy in 2019, May. And that decision to retire started in about 2014. I went to this event. It was right around this time in Portland, Oregon. I'm glad I'm not out in Portland, Oregon right now with the heat. But it was in Portland, Oregon, and it was called the World Domination Summit. And you can Google it, look it up. It's all about living a non-conventional life in a conventional world. And for working for the military, my life was just like regimented my whole life. And it was regimented. Hi, Amanda. It was regimented even when I was growing up, because when I was growing up, I had to jump rope before I could eat breakfast. Yeah, my mom and dad made me jump rope for 10 minutes before I could eat breakfast. And no, they weren't in the military and they weren't mean or anything. I was just like 5'6", 96 pounds, and they saw potential in me, athletic potential, but I was uncoordinated. So their emphasis on sports helped all three of their kids get into military academies. My sister and I both graduated from the Naval Academy. My brother went to the Air Force Academy. And at one point, I was a senior at the Naval Academy. My brother was a sophomore at the Air Force Academy, and my sister was a plebe at the Naval Academy. My brother ended up leaving after his sophomore year, and he went and graduated from USC. But, that emphasis on sports and that belief in us really helped us all get into good colleges and get a good education. But so my life has been just all regimented. So in 2014, my friend said, do you want to go to Portland and go to this World Domination Summit? And then I liked that show, Portlandia. I thought I wanted to see how Portland is weird. Hi, Shaman Mary Ellen. I knew Portland was weird and I wanted to really see, and it really is kind of weird. But I thought, wow, these are my people. I really like the people out in Portland. I really like Portland. I really like this weirdness. Maybe I'm weird. I'm learning about myself. That was in 2014. I saw people that were coaches, that were couch surfers, that didn't have health insurance. I mean, like, how do you get through life without like health insurance? How do you just travel the world? How do you just do what you want to do? I've just been so taking care of my kids and focused on my work and using push energy to get through. These people, I like the way they're living, but I don't know if I could ever do it. So that was that. And then I come back to Southern Maryland, which is where I lived. And you know how it is when you go to a class or go to kind of some event, you're all motivated and you come back and you go right back to your old routines, your habits, your old routines. And it was ingrained in me, right? To just be regimented, to just keep pushing, to just keep your job with your health insurance, to just keep all right. So Emily, why don't you just go for a promotion? That's going to make you happy. So I did. And it didn't. Up until recently, I've been a hyperachiever. Let me achieve this. Don't appreciate anything I've done in the past. Let me achieve this. In fact, it wasn't until recently, this is hard for me to do, but I'm going to show you this. It wasn't until recently that I put my awards up in my office. Okay. Because it's like, that's bragging. My senior civilian service, meritorious civilian service, Secretary of the Navy, distinguished civilian service, meritorious civilian service. Brings tears to my eyes because it's like, hi, Ed, Admiral Straw. That's like bragging to show those and to say what I accomplished. I will cry because that's something that's very hard for me to do. So I'm being very vulnerable right now. So I went from a GS-15 in the military, working for the Navy, to a senior executive level 2. So I skipped SES-1, went to level 2, and I was the director of the Office of Small Business Programs for the Navy and the Marine Corps. And that was a good job. I enjoyed it. I got to meet so many people. A lot of my LinkedIn connections are from that. However, I still was working on stress, and it didn't bring like a constant joy, and my life was out of balance. And I was traveling all the time. And thanks, Amanda. I appreciate that. I was traveling all the time and I could hardly walk because my hip hurt so much. I did have a stand-up desk. And thank you, Anisha. I did have a stand-up desk, and I lived like a block from where I worked, and I walked by the gym every day. I joined the gym and I walked by it every day, but you actually have to go into the gym. You actually have to do the work. So finally I figured that out and I went. I figured out what worked for me with the gym. What worked for me is making an appointment with the trainer, because I'm not going to let that trainer down. I'm going to be there for that appointment, right? So that worked. But one day, I think it was around 2018, I was, my job had moved from the Navy Yard to the Pentagon, and I was in the Metro going to the Pentagon. And you know how it is in DC and the Metro, everyone's got their headphones in and they look like this. And I thought, wow, these people are miserable. And then I saw my reflection in the subway train, and I'm like, I look like them too. I want to live my life differently. My kids are out of the house. I want to put myself first. So I retired when I turned 56, the same month that was my minimum retirement age. I decided to retire, and people were like, well, Emily, why are you retiring? You're so young. Well, retirement doesn't necessarily mean you're going to sit on the couch and flip the TV channels. I don't even watch TV hardly at all. So I didn't call my retirement a retirement. I called it a graduation. It was a graduation ceremony. And I told my mom, I'm finally graduating. Because when you're in the military and working for the military, you get a lot of training. So I was always going to training. My mom's like, when are you ever going to be trained for this job? So I told her at the ceremony, I finally graduated. I did a podcast episode on that day, because that day was a really tough day for me, because on the way there, my dad passed out in the taxi cab. He missed my graduation, and he's okay. But I won't go into that now. But that was all. How do you see your dad passed out in the Pentagon parking lot and then go in and graduate? But I knew he was going to be okay. So I talk about that in that episode. That was a good day, but a tough day. My dad's okay. So I retired, and I'm like, yes, I can put myself first. I can create a life I love living. My daughter was in a good place, and my son was in recovery from alcoholism. He was like 3.5 years sober, I think, at the time. He was in a good place. Everyone's good. I can put myself first. And then it was 2 years ago at this time, 2 years ago, and my daughter called when I was in Portland for the World Domination Summit. And she said, Mom, Dad has cancer. And I said, okay, we can deal with it. And we spent the 4th of July weekend 2 years ago. Bruce had a fiance, and I went to her house with the kids. I was a little reluctant, but it was the last really good weekend that we had with the kids and Bruce. And he kept saying, he thought he had a torn rotator cuff. So he was in denial, and he kept saying, well, once my rotator cuff's fixed, I can deal with the cancer. 2 weeks later, he was paralyzed in his right arm from the cancer. He had surgery on July 9th. He went into work. He was in such denial. And they had to call him from Georgetown and say, you need to come into the hospital now and have surgery, because he had kidney cancer. But when they were looking at his rotator cuff, which is not what it was, they saw 2 tumors in his lungs, one in each lung the size of tennis balls. And then they saw a tumor in his kidney, which is where it had originated, the size of a baseball. And then his C5 vertebrae was a tumor. And that was what was causing the pain in his arm. So he had the tumor operated on, but they had to take out his whole C5 vertebrae was a tumor. So they had to take it out, and they couldn't get to it all. And so they had to go back in on the 16th of July and do another surgery. And after that surgery, he was paralyzed in both arms, which is happens to 5% of the patients. And we didn't expect it. And I have a picture of him with his kids on the 17th of July, which is his birthday, when he turned 64. And, he couldn't move either of his arms. So then he was in and out of the hospital, septic, kind of delusional over some memories that he was having, and not making sense. And it was just a really hard time. So my daughter took care of him a lot. My son was in college and couldn't. My daughter took care of him a lot. His fiance took care of him. And then I would go up from time to time, because his fiance had a granddaughter. And so when she went to visit, I would take care of Bruce. And he had been verbally abusive to me. That's why I left the relationship, and to the kids. But I had no idea I was going to be talking about this. But during the time he was sick, he was nice. And once he snapped at me and his fiance, and he goes, I'm sorry. I said, Bruce, it's okay. This is a couple days before he died. He goes, it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. So I saw him die on December 11th with my kids there. We had divorced in 2002, I think. But I saw him die with regrets. And we had closure. He didn't talk a lot. He was in denial about his cancer the whole time. But we had closure. And as he was dying, I told him that I was going to take his motorcycle and drive it cross country. This is a couple hours before he died. And he couldn't talk, but his eyes went. So I know I pissed him off. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Yeah, I told him I was going to drive his motorcycle cross country. So anyway, I was the executor of the estate, and my whole first year of retirement was not really retirement. It was dealing with all that. I'm still dealing with a lot of it. But the gift, in one of the coaching programs I'm in, we talk about finding a gift and opportunity in everything. And the gift that Bruce left us was the gift of really appreciating life and creating a life that you love living. And my children appreciate that. And they miss their dad. The other thing that I had to do was learn how to, I avoid my feelings. So my son was avoiding his feelings by drinking alcohol, right? And I could point a finger at him and, say he's an alcoholic, poor Will. He avoids his feelings by drinking. But when you point a finger at somebody and try to help them, you have three fingers pointing back at you. And what I wasn't doing is working on myself. I was staying busy. I wasn't feeling my feelings. So when I divorced from Bruce, I had a busy job. I had to work. I had to get stuff done. I had to accomplish. I had to keep moving forward. I had to get my kids counseling. I had to put my kids first. So when he died, luckily we had some reconciliation, because I said to him, like right before he died, I said, a couple days ago would have been our 28th year anniversary. And this was our closure. I'm sharing it. He looked at me and then he looked away and he said, I'm sorry. So that was the closure I got. I know he was sorry. And I just did an interview posted an interview this week with Captain Todd Kruder and his wife Sharon about Todd's depression. And I know Bruce was depressed and I know he had anxiety. He wouldn't go get help for it. And I admire Sharon for sticking with Todd, because I didn't stick with Bruce. But I didn't know what I didn't know. I still don't know if I would have stuck with him, because he didn't want to get help. But anyway, when you point your finger at somebody, or when you say that person needs to change, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. So that's what I've been working on a lot these past 2 years, is me. And guess what? When I changed, everyone around me changed. Because they react to me and they do their changes. Your life is a reflection of you, and you're creating your life right now. And if it's not a life you love, you can do something about it. It's not the circumstances. It's not, well, I know for some people it is COVID. So I don't want to minimize that. And I don't want to say that it's hard, that it's easy to do. But I think I know our minds limit us. We say, well, I would love that, but I can't, because really analyze I can't because if you can think of something that you would love, you can make it happen. That's what I've learned. So just a couple slides, I'll go through them real quick. I wanted to create a life that I loved living, and I wanted to become a certified coach, which is something that I'm working on right now. And I wanted to increase my awareness and flow. And those are things that I have done with the help of a coach. I could not have done it with a coach. But just an example of things that I've been able to do. I've been able to do Tai Chi classes. Tai Chi is like moving energy, and it's moving really slowly. It's a form of kind of meditating. 2 years ago, I would have told you, that's crazy. I can't move that slow. I can't. I've got a list of things to do. I've got to do. Well, one of my guests, Udo, told me is when you do, you turn into do. And I did. So I've really learned to slow down and to meditate and to do less and to be more. I didn't know how to do it, but that's something that I've done. So I had no idea what this would turn out to be. I was going to play the guitar for you guys. Bruce played the guitar, and he didn't play it that much, but he had like 60 guitars. So my kids gave me one, and I saw that it was made in China, and they lent my dad one. It was a Martin, which I got actually, because my dad had it, and the kids are like, well, we want it back. But they didn't want mine that was made in China back. So I figured it out. The Martin is much better. This is a nice guitar. And I won't play for you now because I just started taking lessons 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I think, a week and a half ago. But I'm getting there. So one day I'll serenade you guys. But anyway, I just wanted to share that you can create a life that you love. And if you don't think you can, I'm here to say that you can. And I encourage everybody to do it. And I also encourage everybody to get a coach. My first exposure to a coach, well, I had sports coaches, right? I played basketball, played soccer. I had plenty of sports coaches, but I didn't really have life coaches. And I got my first coach when I became a senior executive in the military. And that was life changing. She helped me so much in that first year. Her name is Marcia Richard. And she helped me so much in the first year of that job, which was a very tough job. And I appreciate her so much. And I thought I would really like to be a coach. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I encourage other people to find a coach. It doesn't have to be me. Find one that you really resonate with. And one question that when you're looking for a coach, you're interviewing them just like they're interviewing you to see if you're a good fit. But I would highly recommend investing in a coach that's investing in themselves, somebody that's always learning. And that's all. Thanks for listening. I'll put a banner up here of my website if you want to know a little bit more about me. This is the Onward Movement Facebook group. There's about 1,400 people in the Onward Movement, and we talk a lot. We share a lot about creating a life that you love living. And the question that you should ask yourself is, what would you love? And when you say, but I can't because, don't put that on the list. Just what would you love? Figure, and you can do it. You're creating your life now. Let's create a life that you love living. Next week on 7 July, I'm going live with my podcast at 7:30 at night with Rob Barnett. And we're going to talk about how to create a living with doing what you love to do. And he just had a book come out called Next Job, Best Job. So that'll be a fun discussion, and I hope you can join us. So thank you all for watching. Hi, Mark. I really appreciate. Hi, Ed. Thanks for watching. I used to work with Ed in the Navy, and all of you that showed up, I really appreciate it. How to overcome today's stress. Okay, Mark, you asked me that question. How do you overcome today's stress? All of our stressors. I've learned this because let me just grab this. Highly recommend this book, although reading a book isn't going to do it for you. Hi, Mark. So this book, Positive Intelligence, Why Only 20% of Teams and Individuals Achieve Their True Potential and How You Can Achieve Yours. In my coaching program on this, I'm getting certified in this, but I'm able to coach it now because I've been through this and I've led a group through it of people. You learn that everything, we have saboteurs. We have a judge in our mind. Our judge judges circumstances, it judges other people, and it judges ourselves. And the judge will recruit these other saboteurs. There's 9 other ones. My top ones are hyperachiever, restless. I get restless, like, let me take that program. Let me do this. Let me do that. And then I'm overwhelmed. And a people pleaser. Those are mine. So my judge will say, that, Emily, you would never have made SES without me and your hyperachiever. You couldn't have done it. And that's not true because I made senior executive with a lot of push energy, with a lot of stress, feeling a lot of anxiety all the time. And I know that I impacted other people around me by feeling that way. And so when your saboteurs cause all your stress, all your anxiety, when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxious, you're in saboteur mode. That's like having your hand on a hot stove. A hot stove. Hi, Bob. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. It's like having your hand on a hot stove. So do you want to leave your hand on that hot stove and feel stress? Or do you want to take it off? And in this program, you go from self-sabotage, leaving your hand on a hot stove more often than not, to self-mastery in 6 weeks. And they can actually measure your brain and how your brain is changing. Because your saboteurs, for the most part, live in the left side of your brain. And your sage, which is what we don't use enough, which is compassion, self-compassion, compassion for others, creativity, curiosity, finding a gift or an opportunity in every situation. And I just shared earlier the gift and the opportunity I found in my children's dad's death. I can find a gift and an opportunity in my son's alcoholism, and he can too. You should listen to his episode with me. So how do you do that? That's taking your hand off the hot stove and switching to sage mode. And it can be done in this program that I lead with. You get an app on your phone, And in the app, you can measure the fitness of your mental muscles. You can go to a gym and there's exercises in the gym. So it's short little exercises. And here's one. You're stressed out, right? Take a deep breath and rub 2 fingers together. Close your eyes and rub 2 fingers together with such attention that you can just feel the ridges on your fingertips. And when your mind starts to wander to your stress, pull it back. Just focus on your fingertips. And do that for 2 minutes and see how you feel. Or set your alarm on your phone for a break for like a minute and just practice breathing. John McCaskill, a Navy SEAL, just posted a video the other day of himself practicing box breathing. You breathe in deeply, breathe in for 4, a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4. Do that 3 times in a row. See if you don't feel better. See if your hand doesn't come off that hot stove. See if you're able to approach life from more of a sage perspective. So, hi, Amanda. Thanks for watching. And, oh, good, Amanda. I'm glad I helped you. I just want to help people. And life can be hard, but can also be awesome. So, like I said earlier, I used to go around, maybe I didn't say that in this show. I used to, gratitude is one of the things that we've got to practice. And I used to be like, yeah, I'm grateful. Grateful I have a phone. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for the nice day. That's saying you're grateful. Practicing gratitude is like really feeling it. Like today, I went for a walk with my dog in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful day. And it used to be that I would walk with my phone. I'd be checking my LinkedIn and I'd be checking my email and I'd have a lot of things to do when I go for a walk. I leave my phone behind and I notice, look at that tree and the yellow flowers on the blooms. I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't looked up because the yellow flowers coming from that tree are above my head. Be in the moment. That will help with your stress. I hope that helped, Mark. You're welcome. Glad I could share. And thanks, Bob. I appreciate the big old hug. All right. Thank you for watching. Have a great 4th of July, everybody. Practice gratitude. Even if you just start out with saying, I'm thankful for that, I'm thankful for that, I'm grateful for that, you're not quite feeling it, work on feeling it. It'll change your life. So I'm recording this outro on my iPhone. Hopefully it sounds good. And as I'm recording, I'm watching my son's dog eat my dog's food. And I've had a great visit with my son for the 4th of July. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give me a rating. I'd really appreciate that. And reach out to me at Emily@emilyharman.com and let me know if you liked this episode and if you want to hear more solo casts. It takes a little bit of bravery to do it, but encourage, but I did it. So have a great week, everyone. And reach out to me too if you would like to have a coach. I'd be happy to coach you.